time for a frenzy. A football frenzy. Any team, any player, any question. Call now at 800-919-3776 or tweet at Rothenberg ESPN, #football frenzy, and ask us your NFL questions.
Yes, it is football frenzy time. We go gunling, we go calls, we go tweets, we go Candelmo, we go calls, we go tweets around the horn. Everyone tries to perfect it, but I think the original, it's fair to say, is still the best thing we have going. 1-800-919-3776 at Rothenberg ESPN. The football frenzy brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of White Plains and Mercedes-Benz of New Rochelle. Andrew Gunling, if you will.
All right, what was the best acquisition made by the Jets or Giants this past offseason?
That's a nice question. I will say I'm going to give you one for each team. I'm going to say Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie for the Giants, and I'm going to say Eric Decker for the Jets. I understand that people don't look at Decker as a true number one. He's much better than what they had, so I like Decker. I think he's going to be a very, very competent wide receiver this year for the Jets. James and Dix Hills, you're on the Football Frenzy on ESPN New York. James.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We don't do that, by the way, James. We get right to the question here on the Frenzy, but I'm great. Never been better. Go ahead, what's your question?
All right, just wondering, who's going to do better for New York? Is it going to be the Giants or the Jets, and also any early Super Bowl picks?
I don't answer two questions on one Frenzy, but I will tell you that I think I don't know. I guess the Jets have less holes than the Giants. Also, the Jets could be better, but I think both teams are right in that 8-8 range. I really do. I'm not overly impressed with either team right now. Debo 18410. Do you think Geno Smith starts all 16 games this year, barring injury? No, I do not. I don't think that. I mean, Michael Vick is right there. Like slip ups, and Vick's going to get a shot. If Smith does this year what he did last year, there's no way he'd be able to start for 16 games. So no, I think you see Michael Vick, and I think the question, I would put it on like 10.5. The over-under for how many games Geno Smith starts this year for the Jets. Jeff.
Fantasy question, what is the biggest mistake you've seen so far in the fantasy drafts that you've done?
I can tell you what, I saw someone get lit up for making a questionable pick in the first round. Someone I'm in a draft, someone took Aaron Rodgers with the 11th overall pick, and the commissioner of the league went bananas over that pick.
Not that crazy.
I didn't see it as a huge... I mean, I haven't seen anything that makes me, that bothered by a pick so far. I'm in the league. I thought Brandon Cooks was taken a little bit high. I think he was taken in the 7th round. So I thought that was a little bit high, but nothing that I've seen that's made me, just question the integrity of the league or anything like that. Let's go to Danny in Queens. Danny, you're on the Football Frenzy on ESPN New York.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, hi, great show. I
Thank
love
you.
it. I'm a big Blue fan for years. Can this year's Giants team, do you really think they can make the playoffs? And I think we can.
They can. I don't expect them to. I mean, could they? Would it be the biggest shock in the world if the Giants win the division? No. Do I think it's a possibility? Absolutely. Do I expect them to go to the postseason? No, I don't. Scott Ribka tweets in, Packers over under 10 wins. Over. I love Green Bay this year. I think their defense is better. Rodgers, you have to figure, is going to be healthy. I think Eddie Lacy is going to be an upgrade of what they... Now, I know he was part of the combination, but he's the guy this year. Their receivers are healthy. I like the Packers. I like the Packers a lot. All right, Andrew, what do you got?
All right, this is a personal one. What's your preferred way of viewing a football game? On your couch, in the stadium, or in a bar?
I used to be going to the game because there's nothing like going to a game, but since I've become this even more lunatic than I was when I was younger, I feel this amazing necessity to watch every game at the same time. So I think my favorite way is to be... I don't even do it on the couch. Can I go off the board? I take a chair and I go like inches away from the television. I put on the channel that has every single game on at one time, and I put my nose as close to humanly possible to the screen, and that's the way I watch every single game. I watch the channel that has like 11 games on at one time.
It's good for your eyes to do that.
I can't see you. I have no idea whether you're even here or not. Not an idea in the world. All right. Well, that was you. So now we go to the calls. That was you, right? Gunling? Yeah, Gunling this. So now we go to Kevin in Pleasantville. Kevin, you're on the Football Frenzy.
Hey, Dave. What do you think about the Titans this year? Is Locker going to get hurt? And is Bishop Sankey as good as people say that he is.
There's a lot of Titans questions wrapped up into one. I like Sankey. I think he'll be a very good running back. Wisenhunt is a good coach. I think they've done well with him, and I don't like Jake Locker, and I'd be very surprised if he made it through the entire season. 800-919-3776 at Rothenberg ESPN. Paul Grassi 1. Why does Alan Hahn hate fantasy football? I don't know. Alan Hahn will be on from 6:30 to 10 o'clock tonight on ESPN New York, and you should ask him. I just don't think Alan Hahn gets it. You know, like they say, I'm a little bit behind the times. I think Hahn is more behind the times in certain ways. All right, Jeff, what do you got?
If another team other than the Giants had the kind of preseason that they've had, would you find yourself burying them more than you buried the Giants?
No, because the Niners had up until last night, they were horrendous offensively this preseason, and I think I give them more credit because they've been to 3 straight NFC Championship games, but I think that preseason matters up to an extent. You know, if the Giants go 80 yards, Jeff, on Monday night, September 8th, when they get the kickoff against the Lions, you're not going to have any recollection that this was a bad preseason. But if they turn out and they look like they did, then it'll have carryover. So I don't know. I don't think it's a direct correlation from one to the other. Jimmy in Rockland, you're on the Football Frenzy, Jim.
I know Demetria Patterson. He was hiding in Java Chamberlain's beard last weekend.
maybe he is. I mean, it takes days to get out of that thing.
Okay, but Dave, my question to you, and I'll make it real fast, in regards to his status with the New York Jets. A, will he be on this roster come next week? And B, will he be one of the starting quarterbacks when the Jets take on the Oakland Raiders next Sunday the 7th? Dave, thanks for telling me.
Yeah, you got it. I'm going to say no to the first question, which means clearly he won't be a starter against the Oakland Raiders next week. But I tell you who may be a starter from stuff I've been reading. Derek Carr may take the starting job away from Matt Schaub as the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. No, that's not good. Let's see. New York Sports 1129. Which quarterback will lead the league in rushing touchdown? Oh, boy. Rushing touchdowns? Andrew, help me with this. I can't think off the top of my head. Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, are those the two guys that would
Kaepernick?
I'm going to say Russell Wilson. They go to the goal line, they run those little bootleg plays, and he takes it. And I'll say Russell Wilson, but I don't feel overly confident in that. All right, Gunling, what do you got?
Who do you consider to be the most exciting player in football?
Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the best. I think he's better than Peyton Manning. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's not a scrambling quarterback, but he's got the best pocket presence of anyone I've seen. He makes plays out of anything. Weather doesn't affect him. I think he's great. I love him. I think Aaron Rodgers is unbelievable. Brian in Yonkers, you're on the Football Frenzy, Brian.
What's going on, fellas? Fantasy football question. How do you rank the big 3 quarterbacks? Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Peyton Manning. And am I crazy for saying Manning's the 3rd best quarterback this year?
No, I don't think it's crazy. I would say Rodgers 1. Just I'm not talking fantasy. I'm just talking for me, these quarterbacks. Rodgers 1, Peyton 2, Brees 3. Pete Saccone. Which team is going to be a surprise playoff contender this season? I'll tell you who's going to be a surprise playoff contender this season. I don't know that they're going to get in, but a contender. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like that team. I like Josh McCown. They've got huge height on the outside. I think Mike Evans is going to be really good. Doug Martin is back to being healthy. They obviously have made their offensive line better with the acquisition of Logan Mankins. Their defense is decent. Anyhow, I look at the Bucs as a team to keep an eye very closely on. Let's get to your list of 10. And is Jeff done with the sandwich, by the way? Has he actually?
I'm good to go.
Are you sure?
I almost took another bite, but I'm okay.
All right. By the way, I think at some point if Jamba Chamberlain shaves that beard, a full sandwich will fall out. But go ahead, Andrew.
All right, well, the obvious ones, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees.
Hang on. Go through them so I can count them.
Yes, Peyton Manning.
1.
Aaron Rodgers.
2.
Tom Brady.
3.
Drew Brees.
4.
Andrew Luck.
5.
Now we're going to start to get into that territory where you're going to have a problem. I can tell already. Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
Phillip Rivers.
No.
Okay. Cam Newton. Shall I continue?
Wait a second. Let me stop laughing. Cam Newton?
We're talking about this season.
Stop it.
You're telling me right now if you're trotting the Giants out there this week 1, coming up against the Detroit Lions, you wouldn't feel better about your team if Cam Newton were lining up under center than what we've seen from Eli Manning?
No. I don't.
Colin Kaepernick.
All right.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan. And then we get into like the Eli territory where I've got him with names like Romo, Foles, Flacco, and Dalton. He's in that kind of
stop with Foles. Really, stop.
I'd put Romo ahead of him.
I give you Romo.
Okay.
Cam Newton is egregious. I mean, Cam Newton is embarrassing you.
Fine, but that's still Russell Wilson isn't, and Kaepernick probably isn't, and that puts him at like 11.
So where are you going now?
What do you mean, where am I going?
So you're giving me, everybody. Why not everybody? He's Geno Smith level. Is it fair to say that?
Well,
whoa, no.
Actually,
yeah.
If you'll just hear me out for a second here.
Yeah, please. Do that. You want to watch, you should take a before and after of like the blood vessels in my head. Actually, go ahead. Sell me on why Geno Smith is better than Eli Manning.
I'm not going to do that, but I am going to tell you that it is not out of line for Giant fans to be feeling this way about Eli. His numbers in 2013
were bad.
14th in yards on a team that was losing most of the games they played in, so you would think he'd be throwing a lot and really have a chance to rack up yardage.
All right, he's awful. How much do you blame Eli and how much do you blame the offensive line? The Giants' offensive line was one of the worst in football, and they couldn't run the ball last year. Do you not take that into account?
I mean, that gets taken into account, but they weren't near the top of the league in sacks.
Go ahead.
I think Eli was sacked the 13th most in the NFL.
Go ahead. It was under pressure every single play. Go ahead.
21st in touchdowns last season with a receiving core of Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks, and Ruben Randle. That's not bad.
Hakeem Nicks couldn't have had a worse season if he tried to last year.
32nd in completion percentage. 32nd. 35th in quarterback rating. Only Terrell Pryor and Geno Smith were worse. Brandon Weeden had a better quarterback rating than Eli last year, and the most interceptions in all of football by a wide margin.
So what does that mean? That if you were starting a team, you'd take Brandon Weeden over him?
No, but if we move higher up on that list, there are certainly guys that I would choose over him. And
or on the flip side, the 2 Super Bowl argument that you keep going back to. I guarantee you, there's not a quarterback with 2 Super Bowl rings that had any kind of season like that in his entire career.
If he had just had a bad season, then I would say you're right. Giant fans lay off. But this was a bad season of epic proportions.
He had an awful year. So who cares if it's bad or awful or epic proportions? Does it matter?
Yes.
He still won 7 games. Right? He still won 7 games.
Thanks to the defense.
Well, I'm not defending what he did last year, but for you to put everything on his lack of performance and execution wasn't all Eli Manning. Was Hakeem Nicks good last year? I mean, was Hakeem Nicks decent last year?
He had a bad year.
He was awful last year. You're the same guy. You send out this rundown every day. And on the rundown today, you said, I don't have confidence in Ruben Randle. Why would anybody have true confidence in Ruben Randle? But in your anti-Eli Manning bashing last year, Ruben Randle's a pretty decent receiver.
Yeah, as a number 3. Now the Giants want him to be a number 2, one of their starting receivers.
Well, they want Beckham to be the number 2. He's just not healthy right now.
I'll believe that when I see it. But as of right now, it's Ruben
Randle. So what does he
Randle.
have to do? What does Eli Manning have to do for you to look at him and be like, you know what, he's better than I'm sitting here telling everybody?
I mean, he's got to have the Giants in playoff contention late in the season. They can't be 0-6. They can't start off the year and just be out of it right from the get-go. He's got to return to at least somewhat. I'm not saying he needs to be exactly what he was in, 2012, even when they missed the playoffs, you knew it was not Eli's fault. He had a good year. He has to return to at least somewhat of that form. He can't be 35th in QB rating, 32nd in completion percentage.
Are you one of the idiots that thinks that you should look to move up? What?
Oh, idiot. Jeez.
Well, the idiot, because it's an idiotic frame of mind. But are you one of the idiots who thinks that the Giants should look to, at the time after Eli now, like wind it down, and maybe Nassib should get some snaps, or maybe if he has a bad year this year, that you move in a different direction next year?
No, I don't think I'm there yet. I think Eli, those 2 Super Bowls have at least earned him the right where you try to let him play his way out of this slump. But if his year this year is as bad as it was last year, I wouldn't be at that point, but I certainly wouldn't blame Giant fans who were.
Yeah, all right, great. 1-800-919-3776. So what we've established here is that Gunling and Candelmo hate the Giants and hate Eli Manning, which is true. Now, let me ask you this, Andrew, before we decide to switch over to the Jets and take a couple calls as well. I know this is going to pain you, and I'm going to work you through it like a therapist would. Eli Manning has been to the Super Bowl how many times?
Twice.
Okay. Both of those games he trailed in the final moments, yes?
Correct.
Okay. What happened in those final moments?
The Giants won the game.
How? Did he lead the team on epic drives?
In one of them, he was the recipient of the luckiest play in NFL history.
Right.
And on the other one, Mario Manningham made a catch that was
the
unlike
throw,
any I think I've ever seen.
The throw wasn't unbelievable on that?
Almost looked like he was trying to throw it away, but he couldn't quite get enough strength on it to
so
get
the
out
fact
of
that he goes 92 yards and 80 yards on these 2 drives and beats an undefeated Patriots team and then beats a Patriots team again, that's no credit to him, right? But is it fair to say that in the final moments of Super Bowls, Eli Manning has led his team on monumental drives?
I can't argue that.
Okay. You root for who?
The Eagles.
Okay. Donovan McNabb had them to the Super Bowl once, yes?
That's correct.
Okay. Down, couple points, closing moments of the game. What did he do?
Well, when they were down 10 in the fourth, he did lead a touchdown drive on a beautiful pass to Greg Lewis that brought them within 3.
Yes, and then they got the ball back, and what did he do?
He was intercepted.
And did he throw up on himself?
Allegedly.
He went into the huddle, and where Eli is cool, calm, and collected.
Am I saying that Donovan McNabb is better than Eli Manning?
I'm just putting it into perspective. Donovan McNabb literally and figuratively vomited all over himself.
Left it all on the field.
Yes,
I can't fault him.
You can't fault the man who, in the biggest spot of his career, can't handle the pressure and begins to turn into Karen Carpenter on the field.
Live it now, man.
What?
He's 32nd in completion percentage last year. This is not 8 years ago. He's not very good right now.
You're wrong.
This Sunday night, the heat is on in Atlanta. The drama heightens with only 2 races till the playoffs. Casey, Austin, and Kyle Larson sit on the bubble and need a win to secure a spot in the all-new Chase. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 2 races to go. The Oral-B USA 500 in Atlanta, Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN.
Darren, how you doing, man?
Good, Dave. How you doing, man?
Good. I appreciate a couple of minutes. Let me ask you this. It seems like, would you agree that the Seahawks, in your mind, are the best team in the NFC right now before I ask you who's the second best team?
Yes, I would agree right now. And until someone takes them off the top, I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. They, outside of yesterday in their last preseason game, they played pretty strong this preseason, especially when they game planned you in week 3. I just think in preseason game 3, I just think right now, head and shoulders, the Seattle Seahawks with their offensive play and their offensive mindset. Hey, let's run the ball. Let's get it in 3rd and short. Russell Wilson will make some things happen with his legs. Then compound that with a great defense that gets after you and puts the quarterback on his back. I think right now they're the best team, not only in the NFC. I think they're the best team overall.
Okay, I think most people would agree with you. Is it fair to say, in my eyes, you tell me, that the Packers are the second best team in the NFC right now?
With your eyes through this preseason, yes, I would rank them 1 and 2. But I still think I'm still a believer in the San Francisco 49ers, and I know they've struggled
right.
this preseason, haven't played well. They're gonna probably lose Aldon Smith for some time. I would say right now, Green Bay Packers, simply because of Aaron Rodgers and their ability to move the ball down the field and be vertical. And have a strong, balanced running game with Eddie Lacy at the same time. They've gotten much better. The big question with Green Bay is defense. Can they stop anyone when someone wants to punch them in the mouth?
All right, let's stay in the NFC. We'll look at the AFC in just a moment. Give me a couple teams. I like Tampa as kind of a surprise team. I think Atlanta will be much better. Who else in the NFC do you look at and say, maybe they're a little below the radar, but look out for that club?
I'm looking into the NFC West. I still think that's the strongest division in all of football.
Oh, no doubt.
And you lose Sam Bradford with the St. Louis Rams, but still, Robert Quinn on the defensive line, Chris Long. I mean, they're loaded defensively, and they will get after you. And it's going to be a battle anytime you play them. Arizona Cardinals. Listen, they've played extremely well in the preseason, and they're a team that plays strong defensively. And if Carson Palmer takes care of the football, they're going to be. They're a 10-6 team last year. And easily could have been 12-4. So. Those 2 teams, and then the Minnesota Vikings. For some reason, Mike Zimmer's done a great job in his short time as far as managing the quarterback situation with Matt Castle and Teddy Bridgewater. He has a starter right now. He has announced that starter in Matt Castle, but they've played extremely well without Adrian Peterson getting many snaps, during the preseason. So, look for Minnesota to be a team that's going to come up and play pretty hard.
Darren, I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to be like, I've never had that before. You've completely caught me off guard, but I really like Gus Bradley in Jacksonville, and having seen Blake Bortles, I think he's going to be a really good quarterback one day in this league.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree, and I'm with Gus Bradley as far as sitting Bortles until you absolutely need him. Listen, he's an underclassman. He's coming in this year. You already have a starter in Chad Henne, and I think it's about perspective. If you're Gus Bradley and you're looking at your team, you're not a Super Bowl caliber team, just depth-wise and talent-wise. You're not a Super Bowl talented team. So put perspective in it and understand, listen, why not sit my guy who was an underclassman coming out, Blake Bortles, sitting behind Chad Henne. If something happens to Henne in week 4, week 5, week 6, somewhere down the line, then we instill him. But why not let the kids sit? You let them prepare without having the pressure to play on Sunday and get some seasoning. I just think this guy, Blake Bortles has a huge upside. And Gus Bradley, if he handles the situation well, and which I think he has, I think, Blake Bortles is going to have a bright future ahead of him.
Is that your general rule? Is that first-year quarterbacks sit them, or is that just like a case-by-case kind of thing?
If I had the right rule, I think, again, you have to look at your team and see what you have as a team. If you're a head coach that's willing to put your guy out there, if you're a guy that's willing to say, hey, listen, I have a strong defense, we're going to run the ball, we're not going to, put the onus on the quarterback to have to win each and every game, then I think you have a chance. Russell Wilson last year, best defense in the league, strong running game, put him in situations to just manage the game and not have to win every single game. I think and he's a seasoned guy that came in that was pretty seasoned and really understood the game. So I get that part of it, but if you have a team where you're looking at it and saying my defense is suspect, my offensive line can't protect us. We struggle running the football. Why put a young quarterback in that situation, especially when you already have a veteran quarterback, and if you already know that you're not a playoff caliber football team?
Yeah, certainly. It's a good point. Darren Woodson joining us here, ESPN NFL analyst on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline. Rothenberg in for Ruocco, ESPN New York, 98.7 FM. You're a former defensive back in this league, so you certainly have a little insight into that. How concerned should Jets fans be right now looking at this secondary, injured, guys gone missing, and maybe just overall lack of talent?
Yeah, no, the hardest thing about looking at this Jets team is what kind of defense Rex Ryan wants to play. He wants to play an aggressive style defense in which he gets after you. At times he'll bring the entire house and the kitchen sink and the dog, the puppy, and everybody else with you when he's blitzing. So what happens then? Well, you leave your corners out there on the edges. Not only your two outside corners, but your slot corner and your safety at times in coverage situations. So you better be able to cover in those situations. And I think Rex, he's always, especially when he had Revis out there, he was always relying on his corners to make plays for him and be able to hold it down. I just don't see how that happens with this group. I don't see how you can continue to bring pressure knowing that your secondary is probably one of your, probably for the first time in Rex's career being there with the Jets, probably his weakest spot as a unit.
It certainly doesn't look good. It certainly looks like a concern. Is Rex fighting for his...
Let me go back on this one. D. Milner is a guy right now that I would really like to see step up. I mean, preseason, whatever it is, regular season games. I mean, all the talk about this kid and the talk that he's saying that he's probably one of the best in the league, I like to see it. Just let me turn the film on. I want to see it.
Do you buy into him? I mean, he was always hurt in college. He was bad early on last year. He was good at the end of last year. Are you stock up for him in your mind? I
think his stock rose last year at the end of the season. Definitely at the end of the season, he seemed the light bulb finally came on. But, I still think he's a guy right now that, I think he's very talented. I just don't know how much of the game that he really understands and doesn't have to just rely on his, to be a great corner, you really have to understand splits, understand how teams are going to attack you. I don't think he understands that part. I think he's a good enough athlete to overcome some things, but not one of the great ones right now. In your mind, is Rex fighting for his job this year? I think Rex is going to be fighting for his job. I really do. And listen, I think Rex is one of those guys who one of the coaches in the league who did a great job with his team and the team that he had last year. I really do. I think depth-wise, talent-wise, they weren't that talented of a football team. But I think, and they had a young rookie quarterback. I think he did a great job of coaching last year, and I still think he's one of the top 10 best coaches in the league.
Interesting. Darren Woodson joining us here on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. We'll spend a quick moment on the Giants, and I'll let you run. There's huge concern about this Giants offense this year. It's a new offense. The offensive line is not right. Eli came off a hideous season. In the preseason, they've been absolutely dreadful. Your thoughts?
Listen, I watched the game yesterday, the preseason game yesterday. I think they got 15 snaps against the Patriots, and it was god-awful. It was absolutely god-awful. My concern right now with the New York Giants is this. Ben McAdoo's come in. He's basically brought in his system. Eli Manning is learning a totally different language as it applies to what he's done the last 10 years. So he's, your mainstay, your franchise quarterback is learning a new offense, and along with the rest of the guys. But, of course, your guys, it's going to go through Eli. So the timing is off. The biggest problem that I'm looking at is Ruben Randall. The communication between Ruben Randall and Eli Manning has been extremely off, and you're expecting Ruben Randall to be the guy to replace Akeem Nicks as a playmaker. I'm looking at this offense as far as the passing game is concerned, and I have a huge issue. But what I do like about the team is that they're running the ball well with Rashad Jennings and Andre Williams. I think they're doing a good job offensively as far as getting those guys to the second level, and they're making plays. It's just, when you watch Eli Manning, you see the struggles in and out, and the way his body language is terrible. And it always has been when things are going bad, but especially this preseason.
How long should it take for a new offense with a veteran quarterback to start clicking?
Again, it's a different language. He's been talking English in the last 10 years. Now he's learning Spanish under Ben McAdoo's offense. So it's just going to take some time, and it is. Most of the time, it's a timing issue. You have to get guys on the same page. And you have to have faith in the fact that your offensive coordinator is making the right calls and putting you in the right situation. So if anyone can overcome this, it's Eli Manning. I think in time he will be successful in what he has to do because he's a driller, man. He's going to go hard all the time in the classroom, out the classroom. So he's going to try to get it right. But sometimes it just takes a long time for the young guys to get on the same page.
All right, Darren, good stuff. 6 days away from the start of the season. We'll talk to you, buddy.
Okay, now.
This Sunday night, the heat is on in Atlanta. The drama heightens with only 2 races till the playoffs. Casey, Austin, and Kyle Larson. Sit on the bubble and need a win to secure a spot in the all-new Chase. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 2 races to go. The Oral-B USA 500 in Atlanta, Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN.
Wally, Eli Manning, how good in your estimation is this quarterback for the Giants?
I think they should drop him in the lineup.
Below Jeter?
Eli Manning, geez. Is it football season already?
Yeah, believe that or not. All right, did Girardi, because Ruocco and I were on the air, and we were happy with your question about why did he not throw Betances for a second inning yesterday when we heard the post-game show. Why did he bring Betances into an 8-3 game the night before?
I think probably because Betances hadn't worked in a couple of days. That's A, and I think B, he was worried. Even though it was 8-3, he realizes, a couple of runs, maybe you get Cabrera to the plate, you get Victor Martinez to the plate, and suddenly you're looking at a potential tying or winning run. I mean, look, is it a panic? I don't know if I want to say it's a panic maneuver, but it's the kind of thing a manager does when he wants to make sure that a 5-run lead doesn't get away from him. And did it cost him yesterday? I think it did, because I talked to Betances afterward, and I said, could you have pitched today? And he said, nah. He goes, I threw too many pitches yesterday. I couldn't, he obviously did pitch an inning. I said, could you have pitched a second inning? And he said, no. I said, he said he threw too many pitches the night before. So, I mean, did that hurt Girardi? Maybe. But, I mean, there was a time when going to Sean Kelly could not be second-guessed because the guy was lights out. It's unfortunate that this year he hasn't been, but, obviously it was an easy second guess there. Why not use Betances for 2 innings?
Yeah, even so, like Ruocco and I were on the air, and it was like that's a first guess kind of situation. The second we both saw Sean Kelly come onto the mound, our immediate thoughts was, why is Robertson not coming into this game? And I know that it's Girardi's philosophy, right? He brings the closer into a safe situation. But that game was, and I know that game was huge. That was the biggest game of the season for the Yankees yesterday.
You're absolutely right. But that's, look, the book says, and this book was pretty much written by Joe Torre when his closer was named Mariano Rivera, that you don't bring him into a tie game on the road. For whatever reason, that's just the way it was done through the years there. And Girardi went with that same philosophy. But obviously, the whole idea of, your closer doesn't pitch in the ninth inning is kind of foolish. If he's your best relief pitcher and your save situation is in the seventh, you bring him in then. I mean, if that's the place where the game's going to be won or lost, why entrust it to a middle reliever, especially one who you probably lost some confidence in? But, that's why he's the manager, and I'm just here, writing about it afterward.
Yeah, exactly. Wally Matthews joining. Are you in Toronto now?
I am.
Oh, I love that city. You like Toronto?
It's wonderful. It's a beautiful day today, and I don't want to go to work tonight. It's so nice out. I hope they open the roof.
Mark Burley's probably not going to want to go to work tonight either. Yankees own him, don't they?
One guy who always owns him, and this will be interesting. This is for your listeners to look out for, is Ichiro Suzuki. He has tremendous numbers against Burley, and for some reason, Girardi never puts him in the lineup when Burley is starting. Whenever I ask him, he says the same thing. Well, he's a lefty against a lefty. And I say, but have you looked at the numbers? So I would be very, very interested to see if Ichiro gets to start tonight in right field.
Did it, because I'm not a Yankees fan, but Yankee fans yesterday really seemed to be deflated. Did you feel any of that in the locker room after the game?
Oh, without a doubt. That was a very bad loss. Very bad loss, especially since, look, they had won the 5 in a row, then they lost, and then they came back with a huge win against David Price, right? So now you think, okay, maybe some momentum will get rolling. They won't give it back. And, to lose that game yesterday and, well pitched on both sides, to only manage 2 runs off Kyle Lobstein, who's making his first major league start, it just shows you that the problems with this offense are not solved by one night, getting 9 hits in a row against David Price didn't really solve anything. I mean, it probably had more to do with David Price than it had to do with the Yankees. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, he
absolutely.
probably just wasn't on that night. And it's really hard to get a handle on this team because, Dave, we're talking about a team that not only just won 5 games in a row, but beat some really good pitchers. I mean, you're talking about a team that beat Chris Sale, that beat Max Scherzer 2 weeks ago, that, beat Price the other night. There's other guys I'm not even remembering. Beat Verlander. These are really good pitchers, and the Yankees have shown the capability of doing that. But they have also shown the inability to win with any consistency. And I think that's the thing that frustrates the fans most of all. Just when you think maybe they're turning the corner here, they take another step back.
I'll tell you one thing that made me feel kind of turning the corner the other day. Watching Pineda, he was just phenomenal in his outing the other day, and it has to make Yankee fans and Joe Girardi feel good moving forward that you got that kind of an outing from him.
No, without a doubt. But again, you're looking at a guy that's going to help you more next year than this year because, frankly, look, it's not over, and certainly mathematically they're still in this thing. But, when you see a game like yesterday or a game like 3 nights ago, the night before the Price game, it makes you think the horse has left the barn already. So, yes, is he a great prospect for the future? Yes. Have the Yankees won that trade? Absolutely. And you know what I'm talking about with the Jesus Montero.
Yeah, he went after someone with an ice cream sandwich, I saw.
Yes.
Did you see that story?
Well, first of all, he came in 40 pounds overweight. So, Jack Z in Seattle said, we got to get this guy in shape. Now he's rehabbing an oblique injury. He's down, I think, with the Class A affiliate in Boise, Idaho. And, a scout there starts yelling at him for not hustling off the field. He was only coaching first base. He couldn't even hustle there. And then I guess to needle Montero, the guy sends an ice cream sandwich to the dugout, and Montero went after him with a baseball bat.
Unbelievable
story.
I
think the Yankees knew they had a character problem there. They loved his bat, but they kind of knew that he was a problem waiting to happen. So certainly, the Yankees have won that trade. But, Pineda, even he can't help them now. One pitcher is not going to help them at this point. Tanaka coming back is not going to help them. They need to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You look at the lineup and just the names, you figure they should be able to score more runs than they've been able to. But let me ask you about Tanaka real quickly since you talk about pitching. Are we going to see him this year?
I don't know. Quite honestly, I thought there was a real difference of opinion yesterday in the clubhouse after he threw his simulated game, which was only to Brendan Ryan. He basically was throwing batting practice to Brendan Ryan.
You could probably do well with that.
The ball.
Right? If you toss to Brendan Ryan, you probably get him out a good portion of the time.
Well, I don't know, man. He hit Tanaka pretty well yesterday.
Oh, did he? All right.
But the thing is that Girardi was very, very encouraged by it, but Tanaka was pretty somber and I would almost say down afterward and said, I'm not ready. I need more time. I'm rusty. I can't hit my spots. This is what he said to the American media through an interpreter. Then later, when he spoke to the Japanese media, one of the Japanese reporters mentioned to him that Girardi thinks, 2 more rehab starts and you're ready to go. And Tanaka basically said, no way. I need more than that, which puts you close to the final week of September. So you may be looking at 2 starts, and you're looking at a guy who's not at all sure that he can come back at all. So I don't think that's very promising.
Enjoy Toronto. That's promising.
All right, bro.
This Sunday night, the heat is on in Atlanta. The drama heightens with only 2 races till the playoffs. Casey, Austin, and Kyle Larson sit on the bubble and need a win to secure a spot in the all-new Chase. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 2 races to go. The Oral-B USA 500 in Atlanta, Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN.